Morning, everybody. I think I got people here. Yeah, I got a couple. Oh, Halifax. Been there once. Loved it. Beautiful city. Just gonna do a little bit of sharing, get some info out, and off we go. What the heck? Oh, there we go. Good morning. I guess we're going to be starting, relatively soon. I just threw a few things on social media to just get people all connected. So that being the case, I guess you can start chucking in questions in here and I will, excuse me, I will do the best I can to answer them. And then we'll go from there. Oops. Well, well, that is a bummer. I can't get that. Hey, John. Sure, David, we can talk about that. And John, are you serious? No way. What province you looking at? Yeah, Alberta's pretty simple. The downfall is that our current government is not very pro-teacher. And because of that, they're trying to dismantle public education, but we have a pretty solid union. Well, not union, but yeah. And overall, pretty good. Yeah, you could work with Jordan. There's lots of jobs up north. For sure. Be cool. And eventually I'll start my gamification school in Alberta. Yeah, I guess that's true, John. I just saw a interview with her, and yeah, we'll just leave it at that. Okay, well, I'll get started here. I'm going to start with David's question of going with story. Okay, so let me get a big yawn out of the way for some reason. Okay, so when it comes to story, I always kind of explain it in this fashion. I'm going to do a little screen share here, the old whiteboard. So when it comes to doing story, David, what you want to do is as follows. So first off, you have to understand that the story is what's going to fuse your entire game. Yeah, absolutely, John. That'd be great. You're going to have to understand that story is what infuses everything in all the design. So I always tie story to theme. So the first thing is for your grade 5 class, and I'm going to kind of like work with you live here. What is your theme? Do you have a theme at all? I know there's a bit of a delay between what I'm doing and as it's broadcast, so my bad on any awkward silence. But David, did you have a theme that you were using? Just kind of peek in the chat here. Hello, Star Wars. Okay, perfect. So the first thing that I would say is when it comes to theme, let me just move myself down here in the corner. Instead of picking something specific as Star Wars, shift to general and call it space. Okay. So your theme, generally speaking, would be space. And the reason I say this is because Star Wars is going to take stuff and it's going to bubble it. And it's going to say, this is what Star Wars is. This is the extent of what can come in and out of your game. If you go space, you're going to get a general, broader theme that can incorporate many different elements. So you could incorporate, some sort of language or skill or some concept of like Star Trek or general space versus kind of pigeonholing yourself in just the concept of Star Wars. But again, that's totally your preference. It can still be Star Wars themed, but your theme, generally speaking, of space is definitely simpler and better to use in that regard. So what you want to look at, first of all, is kind of picture it like an umbrella. And there's my squid-like umbrella. And what we're going to be doing here, good morning. What I'm looking at here, so this is going to be I don't want to write theme again. So theme goes here. And for you, we're going to say that is space, generally speaking. Now, the idea here is the main component that's going to drive everything is your theme, which we've now said is space. The second thing is what is the main goal of your game. So I'll throw that over to you, David. What is the main purpose of your game? I'm going to assume as 5'6", you're a generalist. This delay is so awkward. Did you have a goal at all, David, of like itchy ear, of like saving something, destroying something like that? Okay, so you teach all subjects, so being a generalist elementary is good. And I'll kind of explain some advantages, excuse me, to that. Okay, so I'm not seeing. So I'll make a general thing. We're gonna go with the idea that your subject here. Okay, perfect. Okay, that's what I thought. So the next thing then that you're gonna want to do is you're gonna want to determine essentially what your general theme is. Okay, or sorry, not theme. Sorry, your general storyline. So there's basic ones. You can go with hero and the kids are saving something. You can go with problem solving. But I would imagine that you could use something very generalized like, let's do this, save universe, okay? So because that's general and because you're a generalist and going to be teaching a wide array of subjects, you could take save universe and you can say, because you're looking at space theme or Star Wars theme, and they're going to have futuristic stuff and advanced things, you could say that, and again, I'm just spitballing off the top of my head, you could say that instead of save universe, we could then add, the book we'll call something like yeah, you could definitely do that, John. That's definitely a great idea. Starting a civilization from scratch. Totally. You could do a generalized theme like this, and you could do, saving the book of knowledge, for example. So you could say, I'll just kind of go like, there, knowledge. So you could have something to the things like this of what's going on is you have some unknown bad person or known bad person who's taken kind of the knowledge that exists around, Earth, the planet, whatever, and they're threatening to destroy it or they've captured it. And then you have to use your knowledge to, repopulate the pages, to, track down where they are, kind of that hero mentality. John in the chat here is mentioning you could use it to kind of use as a civilization. So you could say that you arrive on a planet and you have to start it from scratch. And then again, each of your different subjects could integrate into the different ways that you would live. So yeah, he has some great suggestions here. He's got science is the exploration part. Your social studies is interactions and environment and humans. Language arts is record keeping. Math would be, city planning, resource management, things like that. So once you have that kind of idea, so I mean, those are two. My idea is very general. John's is more specific. Both are decent. Both are good, I would say. You then go like this, and you branch off of the umbrella, the tree top, whatever you want to call it. And you say, okay, so if this is my general thing, this is my story. Okay. I'll switch to, I don't know, orange. Actually, I'll do black. It's easier to see. So if this is your generalized theme and story, so now you're going to start working on the narrative. So the narrative is what the chunk is. Oof. I don't know why I do this. Oop. I like this. Oop. So now you've got what you're going to populate the game off of. So remember that story is going to be the overarching, and then narrative, I'll add a little platform at the bottom here. Narrative is I'll put an arrow. This is your progression through the game. Okay. So what you then start to do is you start to say, okay, if I was saving someone, and I'll use mine here, although I really like John's idea of an inhabitable planet that you're going to take over, is you start to branch off is what are things that could occur? Okay. So who are people they could meet? So you might have a branch that someone needs to be saved. You might have a branch that something needs to be fixed. You might have a branch that says something needs to be found. So those are just 3 general ideas. So as you build off of this, this is where you start to meet characters. So for example, I don't know the grade 5, 6 curriculum in it slash at all. Excuse me, off the top of my head. So that being said, I don't have a specific I can give you, but you could say something has to be found. So you get a message, and from that message, you have to uncode it. And that leads you to a map. And this all happens when you meet some person, and this person needs your help. So they say, if you can uncode this, I'll give you this. So that's the general idea of need to find something. You might meet a person who has something that's broken, and using your knowledge of science, you have to put it back together or re-explain it. And then that's the concept of fixed. Whatever happens in your narrative is progressing you forward in the story. Okay. So when it comes to this, you've got your theme of space. So then you start to think, okay, what could I do in space? So again, the idea I'm using here is, there's something, human knowledge, a book of this or whatever is been taken, stolen, damaged, erased, whatever. And your narrative is progressing through to find out who did it and to repopulate these pages and things like that. Then you would have the general idea of your story, which we've now got. And then your narrative is as you progress along that story, going to the ultimate goal of, saving, fixing, whatever the case may be. Mariana. Yeah, so there's a great idea there too, is that we call this onboarding. So I wish I had like a stylist. It'd be so much easier. It's a good G. Onboarding. So onboarding is essentially the principle of bringing on the kids and getting them excited about it. A way to do that is to sell your story. If we're virtual, so people have said, well, how can we make this exciting for kids and things like that if we're virtual? Well, literally simple things like doing, I guess I have a neon green shirt, so this is not going to work. That's funny. Probably should have thought about this. Oh, this is funny. You can't see what I'm doing right now, but anyway. You can see I have a space shirt on because I'm wearing green, so I'm a bit of a dope. But using something as simple as a virtual background, which I'll go to none right now. So when you use something like a virtual background, you bring it to life for kids. Okay. And I'll show you another tool in just a second. When you decorate a classroom, you bring it to life and the kids become more excited because the general concept is that you're bringing it to life. So that's what your onboarding is. And then Marianne said, not Mariana, the idea of giving them a licensing exam. So what you would do is to get them hyped and excited, you could take a few questions, that they might learn in grade 5, 6 or 4, 5, whatever the case may be. Or some kind of softball questions to get them all pumped up. And they have to write this little exam, which is just like a super basic test to get a license. And then that license puts them into the space program where they learn about this story. So your first couple of weeks could be a recruitment part of the story where you're looking for the best of the best in the universe and, that kind of theme. And kids get really hyped and excited about that. Yeah, no, that's getting hardcore, but that would be amazing to do things like that. Now, this would be very, very prevalent if we are in a distance learning platform come the fall, where you could mail them certain things, because how exciting would that be for a kid who never gets mail? Because kids in grade 5 and grade 6 don't get mail. It would be cool for them to get mail from their teacher. Excuse me. or from like the space agency and stuff, with like a license where you create a generic template, you plop in their face and their name, and then you go ahead and then you chuck in, their name, their logo, and then you laminate it and send it to them. It'd be really cool. I know my daughter in grade 1, it's not a gamified class, but after they hit a certain reading point, she got a reading license, and she like loves to carry it around and is super proud, and is able to kind of show people. She's like, oh, check this out. Look, I got my reading license. And so those things work really, really well. So now, David, I'm not entirely sure, 2 Davids, David from Halifax. I'm not entirely sure if that helped you, but essentially, in summation, you've got your theme. You want to now wrap it into what is the goal of the theme. The goal of the theme, again, is, are we saving, inhabiting, populating, whatever the case may be. Then when you have that, start thinking of different scenarios. I can show you, when it comes to designing gamified work for the narrative, I did make a whole video about this. So I'm going to stop this for a second. And let me hop on over to another sharing of the screen. Let's see, which one do I want to share? This one? Sure. Okay, and I'll go here and here. So if I go to here and my channel, oh look, there's me live. And I go to videos, and I scroll to the infinite mess of videos. Right here, episode 10, I created a video where I break down the simple concept about how I created my work. This is like Inception. I'm YouTube inside of YouTube inside of YouTube. So I talk about the themed events, I talk about curricular goals, and then I talk about how you link them all together. And it's been actually pretty helpful for a lot of people. And if that is a video you want to check out, I would say that would be one to check out to help you with theme as well. Oh, there's me. Stop that share. Okay, so I hope NASA selfie app. That sounds wicked. That is a cool idea. Yeah, so Jordan and John, I see you both directing. So for David, yeah, and that stuff I allude to my book, what Jordan is saying right now. When it comes to theme, you have to pick a theme that you know inside and out, because if you don't, kids will pick it apart, because there'll be someone who knows more than you, and it automatically becomes you're less credible when kids can destroy your idea of theme. Like if you reference a character or a show incorrectly, kids will call you on it. They become very impassioned about it. Is every lesson part of the story? Not necessarily, David from Halifax. Essentially, when I do gamification, I'll teach my generalized lesson, and then from that generalized lesson, I'll lead into what I call questing periods, where the kids work. And when the kids are working, it's not necessarily, that's more gamified, I should say, compared to my lessons. My lessons aren't necessarily like gamified per se, because I still have to deliver the content. And I found that when I attempted to gamify the lessons, I personally went all over the map and kind of lost the focus of what I was trying to teach. So I'm totally fine with the idea that like every lesson doesn't have to be gamified. Every day doesn't have to be oozing with excitement and craziness. You're still going to do your teaching of content, because you can't go any further unless you have a base knowledge in which to work with. So typically when I start, let's say we'll use September. So the first week of September is onboarding. It's explaining to the kids, getting their character set up, using my app, all of those different kinds of things. Then I teach for the first 3 days, so just pure teach. I use apps like Pear Deck, like GimKit, things like that, to get the core knowledge. So I kind of have my foundation laid. Then I introduce a few of the quests. So they get their quests and they start working either individually or in a group. This year looks like it's gonna be a lot of individual stuff, which is, but whatever, what can we do? And then the general idea from there is that they use that knowledge to solve problems. I might work on some BattleBoard stuff. I might go around to groups, but you don't have to look at the concept of gamification. This is one of the misconceptions, is that every day has to be gamified. Every day has to be exciting and crazy and this, that, and everything. It doesn't have to be. It just has to be relatively simple on days when you're not doing gamified stuff. So my gamified focus principally is always on questing days, guild battles, tests, things like that. When I'm teaching. I'm getting the foundational knowledge so that I can go deeper into my game. Okay, so I see people doing Dungeons and Dragons, mentioning and talking about. So first of all, I guess, David, I see that you mentioned 10th grade. So what do you teach first of all? That would be probably the best way to start. Good morning, Melissa. Thanks for coming in. Well, we're all Alberta here, sir. Glad to help. Okay, chemistry. So here is kind of some cool stuff that I've heard people do with chemistry. When it comes to it, I've heard of a teacher who has taken the concept of chemistry and turned it into a zombie apocalypse. And what they did was they kind of went off of the increased popularity of the TV show Walking Dead, where they had the idea of trying to find a cure. So they presented the idea of, sorry, I read and then I talk and then I get confused. Superheroes for grade 10 are tricky to do because some are going to be, thank you, Melissa. Some are going to be super into it because superheroes are what they like, but some are going to view it as like, I don't know if I want to do that. And that's when you get tricky, because if you have naysayers that are more powerful, viewed in the class with my quarantine hair hideous, then you're going to find a lot of people who could potentially be disruptors to your game, these people who are going to kind of derail it. So I think a way you could go would be, as people are mentioning like alchemy and things like that, you could have a general idea of trying to develop a cure. So the more you understand chemistry, you could be, faced with, I mean, if you really want to get hardcore, you could talk about, make it relevant, of surviving a virus or a pandemic and things like that. You could do a zombie apocalypse, you could do things like that. And the idea behind it is you would then take your knowledge and they would be faced with challenges. And you would be using that chemistry over time to eventually solve a big problem at the end, which would be the cure to, disease, apocalypse, whatever. You could have it so that if kids fail tests or assignments, they become zombies or infected, and they have to do it side stuff to get the cure and things like that. Exactly, right? Exactly. So you could do all kinds of stuff in terms of making it real. When you get to things like the board game pandemic could be a really good idea and reference point. But I think if you take what the kids, her game was phenomenal when she did Survivor. The idea that I would say that would work really well is if you make it something that kids can relate to. not everybody relates to superheroes, but everybody relates to death or loss. Everybody relates to fear. Everybody relates to the unknown or uncertainty. So those become the core of your theme that you mask with zombie pandemic, blah, blah, blah. And so you could do, all right, let's get the whiteboard out, people. We're cooking now. Goodbye, all my drawings. So you could do some, this is where my brain goes. And I mean, I am not discrediting anybody in the chat. I'm literally taking their ideas and fusing them all together with mine here. My brain goes, my theme is going to be survive or survival, bloop. And because it is survival, what you would find is, I would say, we're looking for a cure, okay? And it can be a cure for zombie disease, if you want to make it super relevant to the times, whatever the case may be. Then your students are going to act as something. And then again, if you use kind of cool language, an elite team, you are recruiting for an elite team of, now you can use whatever terminology you believe that the kids would really gravitate towards, but you could do something like, an elite team of, it could be doctors, an elite team of, researchers. It could be an elite team of, whatever. It doesn't matter. Whatever the case may be. From there, what you get them to do is, it's all about survival, that's for sure. When you get down to it, what you have them do is your onboarding then becomes, you could make little recruitment videos where you splice together like zombie footage from TV shows like The Walking Dead, people running from zombies, scared. I recently went back, and because of the pandemic, I've been just like watching older movies. I went back and I watched Starship Troopers, which is so good. But during Starship Troopers, what they do is they play sort of propaganda videos. And when you look at these propaganda videos, that's what I look at when I use gamification. What they do is they talk about like, hey, do you want to learn more? Do you want to do this? And they kind of fuse, if you're not familiar with Starship Troopers, I mean, you should be, because what the heck? But essentially there's, we're in the future, there's this planet of, Zombieland would be a great reference too. There's this planet full of bugs that keep kind of killing Earth, and they're attacking Earth. So they keep sending these teams of people, and the bugs are smarter than they are. And they keep having these like propaganda videos that they use to explain. So you could have like these videos, that are recruiting kids. And then from there, they could do something like they have to, enter basic training. So you do an intro to your chemistry unit, basic training. And then from there, you determine if they are on or off the team. Now, I'm very ruthless in the way that I do gamification, because you are going to put a lot of effort in this as a teacher, and people are like, oh, I don't know if I agree with that. Well, I don't care, to be really honest with people who disagree, because you got to understand, kids have to understand the respectful part of how much work people are going to put into this as teachers. If you have kids who are acting like donuts, we'll use that term today, and they are, not taking it seriously, they're not trying, they're trying to root it for everybody, they are not accepted. And then they go on a side quest, and the side quest is boring as all sin. Okay. And I do this for a very specific reason. They're still going to learn. Their education is not being affected. Nothing is going wrong. They are just going to do something that's incredibly boring. So, so this might be like, read page 7 to 12 in the textbook, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, the kids who onboarded successfully and the kids who are super into it, you move them along and they start the game. And one of the first things you do is I'm going to put fun in nice big letters, do something super fun with them. Because these kids, these are eyeballs. Their eyes get really big. Let's make these. That's a nose. I can't draw. That's not right. Anyway, their eyes get really big and they say, holy smokes, this is fun. Maybe we should have tried. And I've been able to get any type of kid that has been disruptive or not into this or kind of a dingbat brought into the game by simply showing them, this is what you could be doing. This is what you chose to do. And eventually this drops right off and I get my full class. So then what you would do, really simply, you're going to teach a base lesson. Once you have your base lesson, you lead into your first kind of quest. And this is where your narrative comes in. So you might have a person who is, displaying mild symptoms. I can't spell symptoms. Good enough. And, from there, an analysis proves, and I'm going off of what I remember learning in basic chemistry in grade 10. Nope, it's not problematic. And the reason I say this is because you as the game master have the ability in which to adapt. So if your class only runs on a line like this, you're going to have a natural spectrum of kids who are going to follow along that line. You're going to have your low achieve, you're going to have your high achieve, and then the bulk are going to be kind of that mid ground. It's your job kind of as a teacher in which to make the adjustments and assignments or give more clues or support and build kids up naturally through scaffolding. Because what occurs here is when I do my questing, what I do is I'll give kids 4 to 6 quests in a month that range from easy to hard. And then what I find is most kids will go right to the easy quest first, and that will allow them to build a base and skill set of knowledge. From there, as they go up and up and up, their confidence builds and they eventually double back and they start working on the harder quests. So the big thing here is that if games, even if you are terrible at the game, have a way to keep you motivated and excited, and I hate my hair, and into the general concept where you can do, you can kill a bunch of stuff that are really weak to level up or whatever. School should have the same kind of approach in that you're going to be building them up incrementally. So what Jordan is saying here is knowing your class is important. If you can bring their effort and their engagement up, even the kids that are at the lowest are going to have that effort in which, and we have to understand that success in school does not mean 100%. Success in school means if you have a kid who's done no assignments and through gamification, they do 2, you've won. If you have kids who've got 50 all the time and they get 55 or 60 in your class, then that would be one of the things that they would get super excited about. And the list goes on and on. So the mentality that people have with traditional school is like, it's got to be grade focused and driven. And that's something that I get this question a lot, and I'm glad that you asked it, is because it's a lot of the misconception that no matter what happens, you go around and you have to, accomplish this, that, and everything for your game. And in reality, what you're attempting to do, generally speaking, is even from gotcha. But no, and that's it. Like, that's a great question that you asked, because that's one of the things. Yeah, exactly. Totally understand. And that's one of the things that I think people realize is And again, to emphasize, I'm glad you asked this questions. It's the incremental growth of each student. Every kid is going to be different in their success. You're going to have kids who are going to be shooting for 100. You're going to have kids who are going to be, shooting up, right then and right there. Engagement is the thing. I'm kind of talking all around here, but my big concept, my big thing that I love so much is engagement. When it comes to games, if you have older kids, I just saw the suggestion of beer pong there. Here is mine. Let me just load this up here and then I'll share the screen. I call it combat cups. And it is actually, kids really like it. Where is combat cups? There it is. So let me just share this. There we go. Okay, so when it comes to combat cups, here is what you do. Super simple. You're going to set up a whole pile, and you can watch the video for the full instructions. But you're going to set up a whole ton of cups, and you're going to have each cup with a number, and underneath each number is going to be some good, some bad, some ugly. Okay. And then you're going to set up the cups in a giant mess and a pile. And then as kids get questions correct, they come up and they have the ability in which to throw a ball in the cup. And when they throw a ball in the cup, and I'll kind of play the video here, as they answer questions, they get to throw the ball into the cup. That's my student teacher. And then when they throw it into the cup, they look at the number. Once they look at the number, there's an instruction. The cool part is everybody can sink a ball in the beginning. And then as the game progresses, it becomes more difficult and there's more skill. You take away the triangle, there could potentially be a parent or someone who gets frustrated, or I can't believe you're doing something that looks like beer pong. Well, if you just set up a big mash of cups, oops, wrong button, then you get the general concept that it's not beer pong. It's a more generalized kind of thing. Oh, digital. Yes, the world we live in. I just want to read this comment real quick. Yeah, so Sharv X, I'll call you that because I don't really know how else to pronounce it. No problem, David and other David. I'm hoping this is helpful. I'm a very erratic, all over the person thing. Yeah, so when you're in teacher training, and this is why I love, let me give you a little personal anecdote here. When I was a student teacher, I went to my first host school, which ironically was my old high school. And I went with, in my old high school, I was a super well-respected student. I had awards and blah, blah, blah. And I had a great reputation in the school. So when I had the ability to go back to be a student teacher, I was like, this is gonna be amazing. So I go there and I get a former teacher as my host. And she knows me well. She knows my personality and how I am. And I go in and I come in, like, as they say, full of piss and vinegar, and I'm excited and I'm running around and I'm doing all these things. And I'm a science and phys ed person. That's my background. They give me grade 12 applied English, or sorry, grade 10 applied English. So this is like our lower level English in Ontario at the time. And they're doing Shakespeare. And she says, you do Shakespeare, because I don't really like doing this. The kids don't care for it. So I'm like, great. I ain't a Shakespeare person. I don't know what I'm going to do, but my number one goal, as I can see with these kids, is I need to increase engagement. I need to make them excited about this. So I go and I work, and we're doing what they call, like, classroom snowball fights, where I give the kids the ability to write an anonymous message and then throw the papers all around the room, then pick them up and read them. And for that was, why don't you like Shakespeare? Because that was what the kids were saying. Oh, I hate Shakespeare, blah, blah, blah. So I create these assignments, I work my tail off, and I do the full 6 weeks. And I've got the kids engaged, and we're producing content, and I'm happy. And the teacher sits me down on my exit interview, and out of nowhere says, "You're going to fail as a teacher," word for word. And it was one of the things that really stuck with me, because I said, well, where's the feedback been that you didn't like what I was doing? You know, I can see the engagement. Here's the quality work. You know, the attendance is good. And she's like, you don't do enough of the content. You're all about, you know, this. And she went on those weird tangents that didn't make any sense. And it stuck with me because it, exactly what you just said, just flared all these memories up. Is I had to do exactly what she wanted, and when I didn't, she was automatically defensive and didn't want me to continue. And it was a really powerful message. So I've had 3 student teachers since that, and what I do is I immediately tell them, this is your class now, go. Here's what I do. Here is everything that I do. Here are my books, here's everything, but the classroom is yours. So you try whatever it is you want. What Jordan is saying is the best way that you can integrate some of these things. Every teacher in every subject and every grade is going to do a review at some point. Make a suggestion really, really simply. I'll just share this screen. One of the better ideas I've had is this simple game called Tumbling Tower, which literally, if you watch the engagement of the kids here as this is played, the concept is simple. I have a Jeopardy board on the up there. They ask a trivia question. If they get it right, they have to pick a Jenga block, and the Jenga block has rules on it. So you'll watch the kids, they get all hyped. So there they are reading a rule. Oh, my former students. So you can kind of see the intensity that it goes in, okay? And this works at all ages, because if you knock over the tower, there's consequences. If you get the brick, there's consequences. There's rules like this where you have to pick backwards under the guidance of somebody else who's acting as your eyes. Kids adore this game, and it's so simple. The challenges that come with it, the games, the trivia, all of those kinds of things. So that's like a really simple game that you could use to help with review for your students, for sure. Now, when it comes to digital, okay, I got to show you guys this website that I found. Let me just load it up, and I hope I still have it. What is all this junk in here? Sorry, give me one moment. I gotta go email digging. Sorry, people. Give me one quick second. I thought I had the link, but it's not, but you're gonna love this. I've got a whole slew of videos that I'm working on, and I probably should. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, what would I call this? Sorry, people. Aha, here it is. Okay. So I have got to show you guys this website because it is stupidly mind-blowing. So here it is. I'll put the link in the chat right now. Yeah, John, that's a great way to do it. One thing that I've also done is I just found variations for Jenga as well. As I found Jenga on a bridge. You can do Jenga on a wobbly table. You can use, there's so many variations with just the simple concept of picking a brick, which is great. Okay, so this website, I have to show you why this website is so stinking incredible. When you look at this website, this is not your simple concept of basic PowerPoint games. This guy is an absolute insane coder. Now the downfall is this is for PowerPoint. The advantage is that you can run this. I've run many of these games through the concept of Zoom by just sharing a screen like this and acting as the game show host in the little bubble. So what he has done is he has taken your classic games. And again, I cannot stress enough how amazing these games are. Like, these are identical to the game shows. And I have taken Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, okay, for example, and you create the entire Who Wants to Be a Millionaire game. And let's play one right now to show you literally how I would use it through PowerPoint. Okay, let me just fire up PowerPoint. And we're going to play a round of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, literally to just show you how insane it is. Now you're testing me. Give me one quick second. Is this the one that I built? Okay, here we go. So check this out. I'm under the assumption you guys can, I'm just gonna make sure that that worked real quick because there's a delay, sorry, between my display and yours. So I'm just making sure my Who Wants to Be a Millionaire showed up. Perfect. Okay, so check this out. Let's give that a start here. Close this, let's get her going. So you can see here that this is already bonkers. It's identical to the show. Go ahead and hit let's play. Tells you what to do. So the incredible part is these actually work. You could actually pick a contestant by doing, if you're familiar with Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, by doing the fastest finger thing, where they have to input the answers in the fastest order. But I'm just going to go to play game number 1. Let's begin the game. All right, so I'm going to chuck this over here for a second. And I'm going to put this back. Sorry, I'm just moving around windows so I can see you guys. I'll show you how it pulls. Yeah, it does pull from a spreadsheet, but he's prefabbed it. It's incredible. So give me an answer, people. What is your answer? What is your answer? I'm going to be leaning heavily on Jordan here, considering he teaches this. Oh, looking at B. Jordan, is that your final answer? Of course it is. Okay. All the bees start flying in. Okay. So you can see this is exactly how I do it with my students. You can do this in small scale or whole class. The incredible part is I did this full class. So I had like 12 kids. I mean, that was full by the time we were at online learning at the end there in June. But what occurred was kids started to, I would make them think, they're like, oh, it's influenza. And I'd be like, oh, is that your final answer? Then you'd hear them think and discuss back and forth. And it is absolutely just crazy how they're able to decipher. And this teaches them test writing skills and stuff as well. Yeah, I know exactly, Lauren. Like PowerPoint has changed just a wee bit. All right. So let's say we didn't know. Watch, if you go 50-50, it'll automatically do it for you. If you want to go to poll the audience, it's going to poll the audience. This is identical to the TV show. And then there is what people think. Go ahead and we'll go with the plague. And we'll find out. Of course, we're correct. So now, how are these made? So this is what is incredible about this guy's work, which is just absolutely like mind-blowing to me. Let me just take this window and put it over here. What he has here is, if you go to here, you would go to the template and you would just simply fill in the template. So what he does is, I have my template somewhere. Let me just see if I can find it. Millionaire. Ah, there it is. Millionaire question template. Got it. So here's literally all you do. You get this. And this is game number 1, game number 2. You can create up to 15 of these, if I'm not mistaken. Does my brain work right? Game 10. Yeah, you can go up to 15. And you simply put the question in, put the correct answer, and then here you put the other answers, and then it literally takes this coded and separated by the game component right here, and then it creates the games. So it's incredibly quick in which to set up. And you can even change the point values of the questions. You can change the money if you're from if you don't want to use dollars, if you want to use pounds, euros, whatever. It is just absolutely bonkers what you're able to do with this. And that's how all of his templates look. When it comes to this stuff, that's how they all look. They're absolutely mind-blowingly incredible. So that is a way to make things digital, for sure. At least one of them. Okay, so here's what I did for poll the audience. You can in Zoom, I like to use Zoom. I know some districts don't like it. But Zoom is my go-to. It's ironic that Google is redesigning Google Meet to be exactly like Zoom, but there's a private chat function. So for poll the audience, you can have phone a friend. The poll is an automatic calculation that he has this whole algorithm built that works. But for phone a friend, if it's a whole class, phone a friend, I'll let them call a parent or something like that, which I think is funny. They can ask another teacher, or if it's an individual, they can turn and ask a friend in class. Or what I did when I was doing the Zoom and I had everybody trying to do it at once is I took the kids and I said, okay, let's go nice and simple. When I hit it, it does a timer. And they're allowed to use any tool they want for research, but when the timer's done, they have to have submitted their answer. And that's a lot of fun for that as well. And then when you look through this website, you can do onboarding with Family Feud to check previous content, who's smarter, are you smarter than a 5th grader? If you teach 5th grade, you know how wild kids would go for that. So David from Halifax, that might be worth it. It's got Linguo about linking words together. It's got a baseball game that focuses on math. It's got that press the deal or no deal. The whole thing is just, yeah, it is totally wild. And it is an incredibly powerful website. And the templates are so easy to work with, and the games are so spot on to what the real games look like. So Hopefully that helps. Again, I'm a proponent of PowerPoint, as I've done in the past. God, my hair is so gross. Just need a bloody haircut. If I go like this, channels and videos. Also on my channel, so I talk about building digital interactive games. You could run a game like this with an interactive D&D map very simply. You could using PowerPoint. Apparently, oh my God, what is the Google equivalent? Oh my gosh, brain work. Slides. My goodness, how did I forget that? Google Slides apparently now has the functionality you need to do this. I haven't looked into it, but that's what people have said. You can do virtual boss battles, which is a new video going to be coming. And I got to give full credit to Eric Wilson from Wilsonshire, who kind of originally showed me something that I was like, whoa. And then I figured out a way to, mirror what he was doing, which was virtual boss battles, which track through Google Forms. I have, what other videos do I have here? Lucky Loot is another one, which is a digital breakouts are another one. So those are different things that you could definitely use for online types of stuff. And again, I've got more content coming. I hope this is helpful to people. I really don't. I'm all over the place. That's like classic me. Yeah, making a digital BattleBoard is great. If you had the room, there are some teachers that have built a BattleBoard and then have just had a camera above it and are doing it physically, moving on behalf of the kids. Ooh, excuse me. Same principle of like playing chess against somebody. And, as you play chess against somebody, they move, their chess piece, you move it on your board. So kind of the same principle and concepts. But again, virtual using PowerPoint works quite well. And again, I'm going to have a video about that. I got a lot of things I want to do. I'm redesigning my whole gamification app right now. Again, I've got a video on that. I'm all over the place. It's all fun. This, I'm telling you, if you're new to gamification, once you jump down the rabbit hole, good luck getting out. You will not get out. You will be here forever. Oh, trust me, I team stuff all the time. And that's one challenge that I'm going to have to figure out. And the breakout rooms in Zoom or soon to be Google Meet are going to be really important for sure. Astral. Oh, let's see what that is. Whoa. This looks awesome. Oh, pricing. What are we looking at for pricing? Oh, well, look at that. It's free. Oh, pro. $8.25 a month. Well. Okay, let me just share this. Because this looks awesome. And thank you for sharing. Go full screen. Well, that is incredible. That is fantastic. Well, now I have questions for you during my Q&A, Unrated Originated Productions. Can you just create a table and then move the characters around? And then, I have a different combat system and skill sheet system. So can I essentially use this as a tool to just create my table? Because this is cool. That is frickin' awesome. Well, add it to the list of never-ending gamification resources. Let me just chuck a bookmark in here. Online BattleBoards. How cool is that? Why, thank you, sir. Love it. Absolutely love it. Thank you. There we go. There's another incredible tool. And this is why gamification is so cool. It is one of the best communities ever. Okay, let's go back up to chat here. David from Halifax, he's back. You're on the line. And what we are doing here is he asked, how does a battle board link to the game? So here's the best way that I could explain it. I'm going to do my best, okay? But I am going to recommend, if you don't have my books, and please know that if you are new to this, this is not a sales tactic. My resources are free, okay? So if I go to store on my website, you can download my books. I break down like crazy battle boards in this, and they're introduced here. But in essence, here is what they are, okay? Oh God, I almost ended the thing. There we go. What you do is, oh, I love the whiteboard. Come on, whiteboard, clear, all drawings. Here's the best way to describe it. And this is going to be super relevant for those of us doing online learning. We are going to take the generalized concept of, here's my board. I don't know what that is. Anyway, so here is my curriculum. Now, the sad part is, no matter how hard we try as teachers, we don't have enough time to assess everything, and we don't have enough time to get into every single core concept and everything like that. So we often put more emphasis on one and not the other, because, in reality is we have to finish this much curriculum. And our fear is if we spend too much time here, we won't ever get to the end. So my battle board originally started as completely nothing but decor, and it's integrated into arguably one of the best things in my classroom that kids just are absolutely obsessed with. Is you take your curriculum and you're working on your path, and okay, I got to move to the next unit. Well, what you can do is you can give your people little characters, and then they can move. So as they move, they might come into contact with this person, and behind them is a big rock, and they have to lift this rock up in order to get a paper that was underneath. Now, in my science, this would be my unit 4, this would be levers. So what I would do is he would say, here's, I got this special paper under the rock. Here's what I need. And he says, I'm pretty sure the rock is like, 500 pounds. It rolled off this hill. If you can lift it, I'll share with what's underneath. So then the kids do this completely voluntarily and on their own. They have to design what class of lever it is, how it works, make a model. And then if they can prove all the knowledge, I say that they lift the rock, we move the rock physically, and then underneath they get their prize. So you're able to dive deeper into curriculum. So number 1, let's use color coding. You can dive deeper into curriculum. Number 2, the part of the battle board is gold, or this is your currency. I have the ability to find gold, trade, things like that. So it gives money a point of emphasis, because you can, come across this guy right here. If you look at Yukai Chu's core drivers, unpredictability and curiosity is one, and impatience and not impatience. Oh my gosh, my brain. Whatever, I'm going to call it impatience. It's going to drive me absolutely wild. I can't remember it. But he might be there for 3 days only. So your characters are going to try to get there to trade with him. Number 3 is XP. So you earn XP in my game 3 ways. You earn it from grades. You earn it through cards. And you earn it through bonuses. So everybody has access to this, and then the kids who want to go hardcore can do these 2 things. And then, you might have a card that gives you XP hidden here that kids are going to want to get to. Or, there might be a fighting arena here, and, for every round you win, you get X amount, or whatever the case may be. And then the 4th one is items. One of the questions people get is, how do we earn items? Where do we get them? How, all those different kinds of good questions. So, you can have items laying around, things like that. So in essence, what a battle board is for is number 1, is to dive deeper into curriculum by creating a bunch of side quests or side missions that kids choose to do, are in a race against each other to finish them and things like that. Number 2, it's the idea of using and earning more game currency. 3, using or gaining more XP. This is good for your kids who are high achievers. This is a differentiation where you can create more content for kids who want more content, versus, kids who are just trying to get by with the basics, and everybody still moves at the same pace through content. But then the kids who are further ahead in the content have the ability to go further and do extra things. And then, of course, items. They can earn different items there. So that is essentially what the battle board is for. I hope that made sense. Does anyone else have any other questions? Or things that I could help with? I would love to. Anybody have any questions for me? I will help you if you need help. Anybody? Anybody? Hello? Fighting mechanics. How does players' health work? Okay. Yes. What specifically about fighting mechanics, Mr. Jordan and Lauren? How does players' health work? Oh my God, look at all the questions now. Overview of Glide? I'll try. Ooh, look at this. Ask and ye shall receive. I got like 15 questions now. Okay. Numero uno. I'm going to go literally in the order in which they were received. Fighting mechanics. So my fighting mechanics, work via different dice versus different different dice versus different weapons, and it's an RPG style back and forth. So guess where I'm going? Back to the beautiful whiteboard, because it is the best. Okay, so your fighting mechanics are a bit different than mine, but here's how mine work generally speaking. My players are in a guild of typically 5 people. Okay. I'm going to be making a new glide video about all the new features that they have and how the app is definitely improving. Okay, I have to stop looking at the chat because I'm distracting my own self. Okay, number 1. So I have, if you're familiar with tabletop gaming, so you have a variety of dice. You have a D4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 20. And then for the hardcore ones, I have 24, 30, 60, and 100. So these are all the different dice, D meaning dice. Okay. So there's 2 ways that you can do this. Okay. I'll explain mine. And then off the top of my head, I have kind of an idea for your armies. What you would do is I then have an enemy that they'll run into in the battle board, for example. So how it works very, very simply is you will take the concept of the concept of, I have to stop distracting myself by looking at the chat. The concept of each of your players has an inventory. So if they have no weapon in their thing, they can only punch the enemy. So that's a D4. So that means if it's their turn to fight, they can only roll a 4-sided dice. Then for each different weapon card that I have different types of dice. So I have guilds, and each guild has character to move. Okay, so I do have guilds, and I do have each character has a guild that represents them. Okay, so if this was the battle board, and this was an orc character that they ran into in the battle board, he is a singular orc. And then if we go into the battle board, you're going to see that it's a general character they're moving that's representing these 5. And the reason is I'm not going to give every kid. So I had 92 this year. If I had 92 figures on the battle board, I would want to die because it would be a management crisis. So I have 1 character represent the entire group. And when they fight, the group kind of fans out from there. And then I do RPG style battles. So I'm introducing this year roll for initiative. And that essentially is who fights first. Okay. And John can correct me if I'm wrong, but essentially my understanding is it's to roll who fights first. What I used to do was if you came up to the enemy, and I actually used the way the characters were facing in the game. If the enemy was looking this way and your character approached from the back, then you attacked first. But if you approach the character from the front, it saw you and then the character attacked first. So I gave kids the strategic ability. Now I'm going to roll for initiative. So I then say, okay, one of the things that kids pointed out in the fighting mechanics was if your character can choose who's fighting, well, if you have a sword in my game means you can attack with a D20. So that means that if you had a character with a sword and everybody else had no weapons, if you could pick who was fighting, well, then everybody would pick the guy with the sword because then that would give you the biggest advantage. So you totally could. Yeah. You can go again as deep in as you want with surprise and initiative and all those different kinds of things. And again, that's the beautiful part of it is you can go as deep into the mechanics as you want. So each kid here would receive a number at the beginning of the fight. Okay. So this might be number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, there's 2 ways you can do this. You can do the random with the dice, or you can do sequential. And in an RPG, that's turn by turn. So they call that T by T. You go, and then the enemy goes, and then you go, oops, and then the enemy goes. And it just goes on and on until someone's dead, okay? I've tried different types of mechanics where I use timing and different kinds of things, but it's really difficult in which to do that because these things occur while other kids are working in your class. So it's very tricky in order to be able to use those different kinds of mechanics. So I went with what's called, I used a random approach. So if you were the first to attack, that means that this group is attacking first, okay? And then I'm going to tie health in just a second. So they would roll, I've got 5 people, they would roll a d6. This first roll determines who is fighting. If you roll a 1, it's this person, 2, 3, 4, and 5. But notice we have a 6. If you have a 6, that means the group gets to choose who attacks. So let's say that they rolled a dice and they got a 4. That means that this player hypothetically in the game steps forward, rolls a d4, and they roll a 3. That means they inflict 3 damage onto this character. So if this character had 25 health, we drop it down to 22. I track health on a little whiteboard, or you can use the app to track health, or you can use little token things you can 3D print to track health. Now, it's the bad guy's turn to attack. And let's say he has a spear. So that means he's going to attack with a D12 because he has a spear. And again, my weapons are dependent on what the characters are actually holding in the little figures that I have. Again, you can make them whatever they want. So here we go. I've got this into the rolling. So now he's going to roll because, again, under the same principle, if I could pick who he attacked, well, I would obviously want this guy dead first because he or she has the best weapon. But I don't want that to happen. So I will roll a d6 as on behalf of the monster. And let's say I rolled a 5. That means my attack is going to damage this person's health. Okay. So, let's say I rolled my D12 and I got an 8. This person is now going to go -8 health. And I track all of their health in the app. Okay. It's just an editable column that I can track their health. And I then go back to this group and we go back and forth until someone's dead. In the beginning, your teams are always going to win fights because they're going to have more people, traditionally speaking, and they're going to have higher health. But as the game progresses, this is where the mechanics of RPGs come in because their health is cumulative. So it runs throughout the whole year. So in September, they might have 60 health and take no damage, but in October, they might take a bunch of damage and go to 45. In November, they might get slaughtered and go down to 20, and it goes back and back and back. No, they don't. You could make it so that they have to answer questions, but this is just really quick because I can run this. I can even have kids run it that I trust because they can act on behalf of the enemy, and I can give them access. And this is all alluded to in my app video, which hopefully by next week at this time, I'll have it done because I'm revamping my whole app. And it's mind blowing now how much better it is with the new features that Glide's released in the past year. But they can roll, and then in the app itself is a little editable column that tracks the student's health. And then they just go in and they say, okay, you had 40. Oh, you get hit with 8. I'm going to change your health to 32. And only certain kids can edit the health. It's normally just me in the beginning. And then I hire a kid or two in the game later on to do it. And that way the health is tracked all the time. You don't have to worry about any health tracking sheets or anything like that. because it's all on the app, and therefore it is with them everywhere. There's no forgetting or anything like that because it is right then and right there. So that's how my fight mechanics work. Now, the point is that they earn their item by doing work so they can battle effectively. Yes, so that's where the advantage is. You can move your character around the battle board, but if you have no items, if you have nothing, and you go to these armies and you're just punching and they're, you know, swinging items and stuff like that, then you're going to come to a huge disadvantage because you're not going to be ready in which to, you know, protect yourself or attack, defend, whatever the case may be. So that's when, and I'm going to clear all this. So that's where I have different types of, actually, you know what? I can stop this share and go to this. And then shrink this and go here. Bring this over. Bear with me for 1 second. Desktop, gamification, items. So that's when you start getting cards like this. So this is with Hearthstone Card Maker. So these are different armors that they can use. So if you're wearing this armor and you have this right here, this means that it'll protect 4 damage. So if an enemy hits you with 5, you protect 4 of it and only take 1 damage. I like the Hearthstone Card Maker for this simply because you can do this with the little jewel right in the corner. So I have different levels of armor. So if you have a helmet for 18 and metal armor for 12, that means, or sorry, for 6 and then 12, that means you protect 18 damage. Then kids got smart and they're like, well, fine, I'm just going to earn the top armor. And then if you don't roll a 20, you don't hit me. And then I went, okay, smart move, kids. So what I'm going to do then is they are going to break at the end of battle. So then they have to roll to see if they repair the armor in order to keep it, if that makes sense. Okay, so when do kids roll? So here's what I do. So I have something called battle sheets, which are nothing more than worksheets. And you fight a monster on the worksheet. And every 4 damage you inflict on the monster gives you a roll. I also give them what I call a daily roll. Once the kids get the hang of this and the class is moving nice and smoothly, I give them a daily roll. They get to roll 3 times every day. And then they earn rolls in other facets. You can have cards that give you rolls. Like, for example, you can get a horse as part of a game. And then you can roll by using the horse card to move further in that day. You complete a sheet and you inflict 32 damage. Well, 32 divided by the 4 that equals a roll is 8. So you get 8 rolls for doing that, and so on. Items, attack items. So, for example, like here's a sword. Now, the interesting part is like these don't really apply anymore, hence the importance of my app. But you have your different items that go with the different types of, I'm all over the map, that go with different types of dice. So how I set this up is as follows. Here's what my app looked like for my kids last year, and I'm revamping this at the moment. But I had my items tab. So here's every item that's in my game, and there are a lot of them. But if I go to sword, for example, a kid who had a sword card would go, what's a sword for? I'd say, go to the app. So it's a multi-use card, allows you to use a D20 in battle, or if you're in a guild battle, which is like a trivia questions against other groups, you can steal a question. So what I've realized is that as my game has progressed, I haven't been able to keep my cards up to date. It's impossible. And the reason that it's impossible is because as the mechanics change, excuse me, the mechanics of the actual cards change. And there's no way that anyone should ever remake their cards over and over and over again. So in reality, if I were to remake my cards from the beginning, I wouldn't put descriptions on them. The descriptions would all be in the app here. But again, you know, hindsight is 2020. My game has changed dramatically over the past 6 years. So that app becomes very, very important for me when it comes to determining what does what and how things work. So when it comes to the battle board, again, those are the different facets in which you can have kids roll. They can earn them. It can be through game cards. It can be as bonuses, different kinds of things like that. Yeah, generally speaking, that's right. As the game has changed, the card use has changed, or its value or its worth, and then as those changes have come into play, the way that the cards are designed and the writing on the cards becomes almost irrelevant or outdated. And you don't want to continue making your game cards, because you could make game cards till you're dead. I mean, the kids eat them up like absolute madness. So it is incredibly important to understand the thing for sure. So it is, yeah, it's one of those things where using the app has been a game changer for me, and doing the card thing, because I can just oh yeah, this has a new thing, boom, add a new slot, and then just update the actual use of the card. And again, I hope that made sense. Okay, so health. So in the app, boop, guess what's coming back? So if this is me, this is little character me, and each character class at the beginning starts with 2 items and a specific amount of health. So let's say I was a knight. Okay. So I've got, oh, that doesn't work at all. So as a knight would go, I would say that a knight is like armored. So for me, if you start as a knight in terms of a character class, you are going to become heavily armored. So that means your health starts off at 70 at the beginning of the game. Okay. So it's September 1st, you know, you become a knight, you've got 70 health. And so your team goes on the battle board, and you know, everyone's having a good time, and you battle a monster and you get hit. So now your health drops to 62. So this means that your health is now consistently 62. And you get into another battle and you go down to 58. You don't take a lot of damage. This keeps kids honest. And this has been one of the biggest game changers in my design of the health system, is because I used to say the original health system was you have 9 hearts. And my original fighting mechanic was a high-low roll. So you would roll a dice, and if you rolled higher, then they took damage. And if you rolled lower, then you took damage. So then all of a sudden you took damage, you went down to 8, you went down to 7, 6, blah, 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 blah. But then the boneheaded design I made was that I reset it. So it was virtually impossible for everybody to die, because in a high roll game, to lose 9 times never happened. I think the closest I ever got a kid down was like 5. So this became, kids then just started to bull and battle and fight their way through everything, because there was no fear of loss. There was no consequence for losing. So the thing that I had to change was my health mechanics. So now this is a year-long running health. So that's where my game added health items. So I have, so I have a potion, I have food, and I have magic that can restore your health and cure you and things like that. So then it comes to boss battles. So for my tests, and I have a video about this literally called boss battles. So you can see that on my YouTube channel. Actually, I'll just show you which one it is real quick. Right there. Okay. So what you do is, I'm gonna go back to my whiteboard. So as you get questions wrong in a test, you have a person who rolls a D4. And if they rolled a 2, that means anyone who got that question wrong on the test loses 2 damage. And again, this is much better explained in that video, by the way, just so you know. So everyone who got it wrong then goes ahead and does that. And because your health goes throughout the year, you have to be strategic about when you use health, how you use health, when you fight, how you fight. And it gives a whole other live dynamic to the game, because now all of your actions have consequences that are not a one and done. They're actually residual that go throughout the entire year. So then, of course, the next question is, well, what happens if death occurs to you? Well, here's again how kids are smarter than adults, okay, when it comes to games sometimes, all the time. I said, okay, if you die, number one, you lose your gold. So whatever your gold inventory is, you lose your items, and then your health resets. So what do you think kids did? Well, of course they did exactly what you're thinking, because you're all smart. They went into battle, and let's say they had 8 health left. So like the risk of me dying right now is high. So they would transfer their gold to a teammate with high health, transfer their items to a teammate with high health, die. Their items would be given back, and your health resets. That was a terrible design on my part. So here's how I counteracted that. If you die in my game, number one, if you are at 15 health or lower, you can't give anything to anybody, okay? And I'm contemplating changing that to 20. This prevents you from being able to ditch all your items and then just go die, okay? So I say no, I call it no safeguarding. Because it was smart. This is a really smart idea that kids found a loophole in my game. So I said, you can't do that. Number two, I said, when you die, there are percentage dice that you can use in D&D. So I said, if you were, we'll go back to my example of a knight. If you are a knight and you die, to come back to life, what you do is you actually only get a percentage. So if you rolled 10%, that means you come back to life, but only have 7 health. If you roll 20%, well, you get your 14 health, and all the way up until. So this created an actual, if you die, there's a real live consequence in the game, versus kids using death as a way to restart their character's health to get through a difficult task. So again, that's the beautiful part about this, is that's real world thinking and problem solving and loopholes that kids jumped into in order to pick apart the issues that I had in my game, which again, I'm a huge proponent of this kind of stuff. I love when kids are able to figure that kind of stuff out and force me to adapt. So I thought that was a great idea. So I hope that makes sense when it comes to health. What else was in the chat? How many scenarios would you start with? Okay, so when it comes to the battle board, I forgot to answer this question. Actually, here's the fun part. I do 5 different units in my science class, okay? And because I do 5 different units, I have the ability in my battle board to put quests all the way that I would never, or bonus missions or side quests that I would not do until material taught in May, but I chuck it into the battle board. So that lever example, that's in one of the starting points. So it's frequent that kids get to that. And then they go, what am I going to do if I don't understand this? Well, I say, well, you can wait until March and we learn it, or you can go find out what it is. And then when you find out what it is, you turn around really, really simply and you say, all right, then I figured out what it was. I'm going to do this now before anybody else does it. And I've now, so they've taught themselves the different classes of levers, how they work. They lift the rock, they get the prize, and they're now at an advantage. And then what happens in March when I actually teach that content as part of my normal curricular kind of goal that I outline my plan that I normally follow as a teacher, these kids are all over that lesson and they're teaching everybody else. And I almost don't have to teach that lesson because they're teaching, oh, I remember when we did this, and they jump in. So the battle board can contain as much as you want. And I literally open it up to the entire year. So it gives kids the ability to move ahead and challenge and push themselves, or wait if that's what they're more comfortable with. And again, that flexibility and that choice is really empowering to kids. When it comes to armies, Jordan, I guess my question would be, have you not looked at or tried the mechanics of Risk? Because that's in essence what you're doing. So you are having a certain amount of armies, you are rolling, the number that you roll is removing that many armies, and you're going back and forth, kind of in the same mechanics that I had mentioned. So a sword might eliminate 3, punching, you'd have to roll, a 4 to eliminate an enemy, whatever the case may be. So I feel like the mechanics of the game of Risk would work for what you're looking for armies. Would you agree and or disagree, or have you tried that by chance? Well, that gets relayed to Jordan in a delay. The next thing is, people said, well, what does a typical week look like? A typical week, typically I do a couple content stuff at the beginning of the week. Fridays are always questing, because by the end of the week, kids are finished. And so I just give them the ability to work. It's remarkable, but using the different game languages, by calling it quest instead of work, kids will walk in my class like, is it a questing day? And they're like, I'm like, yeah. And essentially what they're walking in is saying, is this a day that we get to do our work? So that'll always happen on Fridays. Guild battles always happen the day before a boss battle. So we're a review game the day before a test. And I try to do lots of questing, because when the kids are teaching each other and working back and forth with it, they really become captivated. And I find that the knowledge sticks a lot more than when I'm just straight teaching it. So Monday, I'll often do a lesson, sometimes into Tuesday. And then I try to do questing and games and activities, battle boards, and those kinds of things throughout the week. But it's very fluid. I'm not one to be like, this has to happen today, this has to happen today. It's a very fluid and dynamic classroom. And that's for people who are new to gamification. That's one of the hardest things for teachers to give up, is that control of the room. So if you do it right and you trust kids, once kids know you trust them and you believe in what they're doing, then they tend to be pretty well behaved and work really, really well. I'm also super honest. I tell kids, I'm like, look at, I was up till 2 a.m. last night figuring this activity out. I really hope you guys like it. Give me feedback. And then because kids see the effort you're putting into, they're often very respectful and reciprocate back that level of effort. Jordan, I'm going to talk to you privately after. We'll have a little chat, because I need to know more specifically about how you want to use armies. Because I can't quite wrap my head around it just yet. What else? Glide is really hard for me to kind of explain. All good, Bobby, all good. In essence, Glide works. Now, my first video explains everything. I'll just kind of show you a little quick peek real quick. What am I even sharing? Screen share, screen numero, douche. So, where's what I want? This. Okay, so this is the new app that I'm starting to build. It's going to look intimidating and crazy, but it's actually super easy. So this is all stuff I have to gut out of here right now, I'm pretty sure. But one of the cool features that I have right now is Glide is the ability to create individual player profiles, which limits access to who can do what And that, I gotta tell you, is one of the biggest game changers I'm going to be talking about in my new app. Is Glide's ability to do this, because what Glide does is allows you to create custom player profiles in an app and then limit the access and things that they can see and do. They have new visibility functions. So when you click on things, you can actually see when they show up and when they go away, which again is absolute madness in terms of how this stuff works. You can track stuff. They now have sub menus up here. It is remarkable to say the least. It is absolutely crazy what Glide is allowing people to do. It blows my mind, I gotta tell you, completely. So it is definitely one of those things where in about the next week, I should have my video ready. This is driving me bonkers because there it goes. I wonder why that's not working. Anyway, so annoying. Anyway, it'll all be fixed and ready, and I'll have a tutorial and a template for you guys to build and to use. But Glide essentially is just a real simple, and I stress simple, app building program that uses Google Sheets, and it can go really simplistically, where the app is designed and built using just basic stuff, and then you can start adding in formulas and code and all kinds of different stuff that really push it a lot further than the traditional game would be. And it is something that I would highly recommend for a digital environment. And the reason I like Glide so much is because Glide also has the ability to work with any platform. So you don't have to go through the App Store or the Play Store or whatever store. It's a website that mirrors an app, but you don't know the difference between the two. And again, that will all be explained via my my video on app creation that is coming up next. I'm actually going to close all of this stuff for now. Perfect. I think I trucked through most of the questions. Okay, so I'm getting asynchronous teams. Can you clarify what you mean by that? Do you mean like the fact that they're working individually because we can't do group work because of COVID, or I just want to make sure I'm on the right page with you. We mentioned some stuff for sure about digital tools and stuff like that. You can kind of check a little bit up in the chat about it for sure. Okay, so when it comes to that is where the app and breakout rooms are going to be hugely important. And the reason I say this is because the idea is you have to now take the ability of face-to-face. Online dice rollers are going to be really important. Chat windows are going to be important, and things like that. So there's nothing that we can really do in order to alleviate the fact that we can't be in teams, and to try to create virtual environments for teams. So for Zoom, using the breakout rooms is going to be important. Well, maybe I'm not understanding. Yeah, I'm going to publish the stream up for sure. When you go to, like, are you saying you want kids to be able to work individually, or how can we take the individual not being allowed to be, face-to-face or working in a group and make it group work? Because yeah, I'm not sure if I understand. I'm not the brightest bulb. That's for sure. I guess I'm just having a hard time understanding what your question is. Is your goal, how do I make kids be independent but work in a group? And what environments can we create? Or is my whole game going to be individual? Because you can still do group stuff using breakout rooms, Google Docs, slides, FaceTime, group, whatever, Google Meets, Hangouts, where groups can still function as a group, but be at a distance like we're doing now? Or are you saying, how do we shift to a complete everybody for themselves model? Ah, okay. My students working individually on Google stuff at different times. Yeah, so that means in order to create the teams and groups and the ability to work collectively, is you'd have to have some sort of live component, like we're doing now. Um, okay, yeah, so that's what I thought. So what I did last year is I would have a Google Meet. So every Tuesday and Thursday at 9 a.m., we had a live Google Meet where I taught a lesson, and then I could send the kids into different groups to function as a task, complete a mission, whatever the case may be. And then, you know, I opened up a Google Doc and I shared a doc in my classroom and said, okay, these kids joined, this one, make your own copy, break it down, and things like that. Yeah, I tried Discord, and the Discord server was really, really tricky because yeah, the ability to just go all off on your own and do everything you want, it was really tricky. And Discord, I think, has certain age recommendations and stuff that schools aren't super great about. So my solution to the group stuff was I had a consistent time that we met through a Zoom chat, just like this. They would join the Zoom. I would teach a content chunk of something, and then I would use the breakout feature and I would chuck them away into their breakout rooms with people, because you can prefab the breakout rooms. Really? That's surprising. Well, I mean, I don't know how many kids you teach or how big of an undertaking this would be, but just kind of spitballing, you could have it so that you had students meet you, let's say from um, 9 o'clock until 10:30 every Monday, Wednesday, let's say, just making things up. You could invite X amount of kids to this time. They work together. You end the chat, off they go. You know, can't stop them from working together when you're not there. I mean, I'm just being a little facetious, but that limitation and rule poses a big problem. Yeah, that's going to say the only time is you'd have to have a time for each team. Um, but I'm just not sure how much time you would have, like how much time of your day that would eat up. Huh. Yeah, that would be the only solution that I could think of. Would be like, okay, team one is every Monday 9 to 9:15, team two 9:15, that kind of stuff. Yeah, see, and that's the thing. We're not allowed to require it either. But what I found is, see, that's what I thought. So much time. So my idea was, if I just make a designated time that I encourage you, and I tried to do something unique, fun, give you an advantage for showing up, whatever the case may be, then I did it in that regard. So, um, yeah. One solution would be making bigger than normal groups. So let's say your groups are normally 5, maybe they're 8 to 10. And then, yeah, like while they're not required, Yeah, that's a tricky one. Yeah, our school only allowed an hour of work a day. Um, no one checked in on it. And as long as you weren't piling on to the kids, and so my work and stuff was very, very relaxed. So it was like, watch this, do this, watch this, do this, solve this problem, work, kill this monster, whatever. Kids enjoyed it. So I never had any complaining with it. And then it just gave them advantages and perks and things like that. Um, but yeah, it's a tough question to answer because the limitations that your school imposes on you or your district or your board or whatever are gonna change the way that you can do it. I mean, I see someone says ask for forgiveness. That's kind of how I've done my whole 10 years of teaching. Is I'm always like, what? I'm sorry, but look how good it worked. So I mean, forgiveness is something that I tend to ask for a lot. Yeah, I've done similar. So actually, if you look on, to show you that I ain't fibbing, um, if you look on my channel, you guys can't see these because they're unlisted, but you will see momentarily. Videos. I recorded every lesson I did. See, they're all here. And then kids could watch them at a later date. I mean, you can see like 2 views, but certain kids would watch them and then they could ask their questions or message me or, whatever it may be. So archiving them was definitely something that could help as a potential solution for sure. I was big on the live proponent. We were lucky because our district is about the face-to-face connection piece. So they said, if you can do live stuff, we encourage you to do it just because, being able to hear and see the kids and check in on them. If you're publishing, of course, be very mindful of FOIP. I always tell kids, okay, I'm recording live right now. Turn off your cameras, things like that, just to cover your own self. So I know that's not the greatest answer in the world, but yeah, the limitations that you're going to have individually as a teacher are, it's nothing much that we can really control. So it is what it is, right? Anything else that I can help people with? We've been here for 2 hours. Wowzers. And yeah, this will be, once this is done, it'll upload and I'll do all that good stuff. Yeah, I've got videos on app making, camera lenses, which is kind of a cool thing to create online content with. My brain isn't working. Virtual boss battles, a bunch of different things. Sabotages, which is kind of a new thing for guild battles I'm adding in. So keep an eye out for more videos over the next few weeks. I've kind of finished off a couple projects I was working on. So now my goal is to make a video about creating the app, template the app so people can use it, and then, just keep on trucking and plugging along to the best of our ability. So. Anything else I can help people with before we wrap this up for today? Again, I'll do another one in a few weeks. I love this stuff. Hopefully I'll have some more videos so I can get different types of questions. That's a tough one. Virtual team building is tricky. That's not exactly my biggest strength. I'm totally comfortable admitting that. But using things like that game show stuff I showed earlier, um, using things like writing backstories for your characters and for your team, designing a guild flag or shield virtually. So one of the things I do is when they're put in a team, they have to create a flag. So encouraging a Google Meet where they meet up and then everyone goes into a Google Draw, and they have to design a team flag or something in 15 minutes, with 5 colors minimum, or whatever the case may be. Things like that kids like. If you have access to Minecraft, super exciting news from Minecraft, by the way, is that they're finally releasing Minecraft on the Chromebooks for Minecraft education. So huge, because so many of us have students with Chromebooks and Minecraft education. A lot of us have licenses for it. We just don't know it because your district often has a Microsoft license for software. And in turn, that comes with a Google Education or Microsoft Education version. So that's super exciting. I'm going to be using that when that goes past beta and is actually released. It's going to be awesome. Yeah. I hope that was helpful for people today. Again, I'm always around through social media and stuff. If you have questions, need help with things, whatever it may be, I am willing to help people out any way that I can. In order to, if I can give you one point of advice, listen, this school year is going to be mayhem at best. You are going to have districts going full online, districts going hybrid, districts shoving kids and students back and teachers back into buildings that will subsequently be shut down. Sub budgets are going to be crazy. Safety, testing, everything is going to be absolute madness. Okay. Madness this year. Don't feel the pressure to have to be perfect in a gamified thing. For many of us, this is going to be survival mode. This is going to be trying to get kids to show up, trying to assess things. I'm going to be taking this time to try to perfect and get ready for my next in-person gamification, for when I can go back to kind of a normal, quote unquote, if we ever get back to that. So don't feel pressure to do this amazing stuff. If I could leave you with one point, it's this trend that was going around that I totally agree. And I've got the benefit of having an amazing psychologist as a wife, who really reminds me of what's important to human behavior and thinking and stuff, which is the idea of Maslow before Bloom, which is make sure your kids are taken care of, make sure that they're feeling comfortable, that everything is, check in with them, because if there's issues there, it doesn't matter how amazing your gamification is. It's never going to get to the point that you want it to if the basic needs aren't met. Think about different financial stresses for family, potential of increased levels of abuse, of just general stress at home, the pressure that certain parents feel about the different levels of education and different kids that they have. So I'm going in with a very we're going to get through this. It's going to be the best possible scenario that we can. We're going to have some fun along the way. But if my gamification just doesn't work because attendance isn't good and access to technology and stuff for kids isn't good, or we're face to face, half kids one day, half kids another day, whatever the case may be, don't feel the need that, especially if this is your kind of first or second year into gamification, don't feel the need for it to have to be perfect. It's going to flop all over the place. The school year this year is going to be madness, and just have that flexibility to roll with it and to do the best you can with it, and use maybe more elements of gamification, like this game, this activity, this challenge, versus trying to create the whole gamified platform, especially if your attendance is low, because if your attendance is low, you're going to be needing to get a hold of these families and these kids and these things to try to support them. And gamification naturally will just kind of slide off a little bit. So it's okay for this year to be a struggle. Just, I guess, I know I'm going to have my struggles for sure. And I'm embracing it already. It's July, 14th. I'm embracing it already. I know what's going to happen, and it's okay. So I hope you found this helpful today. And thanks for tuning in and asking me great questions. I hope that, I was able to make sense of some things. I'm a bit of a scatterbrain. So as I was looking at the chat and answering and drawing, my brain kind of goes all over the place, but that's me. So thanks for joining me, and keep an eye out on my social media. I'll definitely be releasing videos in the next few weeks, as many as I can. My editing computer is on the fritz right now, so I'm hoping that I don't have to figure out how to edit without editing stuff. So we'll see how it all goes. And thank you, everybody. And in the meantime, before we have our next one, if you have any questions, please, you know how to reach me. Thanks for coming. And if you haven't subscribed, click the little subscribe button. I would appreciate that. All right. And in about, I guess, 2 hours or less, this will be uploaded onto my YouTube channel for you to skim and kind of peek around later on. Great. Thank you very much. Great to see you all. Oh, well, virtually through writing. And have a great day, everybody.